Everyone can make their way to their seats, please. I would like to call this Thursday, October 13th, Livingston County Board meeting to order. And we will start with the invocation by Pastor Jane Ambrose.
Let's bow our heads for prayer. In Isaiah 55, verse 6, seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call ye upon him while he is near. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I send it. Tonight, Holy Father, we do seek your face. We come before your throne with sincere hearts, asking for your ways to be established in the business at hand for Livingston County. With humble hearts, we pray, believe, and receive in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
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 Thank you. Now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Lovell. Okay, next we'll have roll call, please. Christy?
Vietti. Here. Bunning.
Present.
Kirkton. Manker. Barrickman.
Present.
Allen.
Here.
Fannin.
Present.
Steichen. Schaefer.
Present.
Menninga.
Present.
Kestner.
Present.
Welch.
Present.
Carly.
Present.
Miller.
Present.
Ritter.
Present.
Here.
Lovell.
Present.
Ambrose.
Here.
Blackard.
Present.
Airing.
Here.
Fidstom.
Here.
Arbogast.
Here.
Wilkie. Runyon.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Christy. Before we have approval of agenda, I need to make a amendment here. Under Ag and Zoning, we are going to move zoning case SU-5-22 USS Man Solar down to D. So with that amendment, I need an approval.
I will move as amended.
Bunting and Ritter, second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Okay, thank you. Now we're going to have approval of the minutes from June, July, August, and September.
Motion to approve the minutes by Fannin.
By Fannin, second by
Hearing.
Earing. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Yes. Is your microphone on, Bob?
I thought I pushed the button. Okay, on the minutes of August 11th, I think we have a minor error there possibly. When we get back to Ag and Zoning, but it would be on the third page, Christie. Toward the end of that top paragraph at the top of the page, motion by Bunning.
Yes.
Then down under absent on the vote was Bunning. I don't think Jason left the room.
No.
I think he was here. Is that right?
Jason?
I'm looking.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and look at the minutes to see that. Oh, I forgot to close work. Yeah, it is.
The only reason why I'm questioning it is that's during State Fair. Just wanted to make sure that I was here, but I was present, so yes.
No.
Just take,
What I usually do is copy and paste, and that was from the month before
perfect.
for the absent, so, yep. Just on that one, it looks like. So we will change that.
Okay.
Who says you can't be in two places at once?
You zoomed in, huh?
So we're all good with that then, with
Yep.
everyone? Okay. Before we move down to presentations, I would like to introduce our new executive assistant, for those of you who have not got to meet her, Jordan Uselding, sitting next to Alina. We'd like to welcome her to the team. Okay, now we'll move down to presentations. Regional Office of Education, Mark Jontry.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the board. I just wanted to take a brief opportunity to recognize one of your own as he concludes his over 2 decades plus of service to the citizens of Livingston County. Tim Schaefer has served on our office's Joint Education Committee for the better part of the last decade as Livingston County's representative on the Joint Education Committee, and has been an outstanding representative for the citizens and this board of Livingston County. He's most recently served as the chairman of that committee, and I just wanted to take this opportunity publicly to say thank you to Tim for his service to our office on behalf of our entire staff, and wish him well as he concludes his public service, and just have a small token of our appreciation for Tim. So Tim, thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on down to, thank you, Mark, for that. He's very deserving of that. Now we'll have Charnett Architects and Associates update on the historic courthouse roof project.
Well, thank you all very much. I'm pleased to not be late this time. And the reason for this update is to follow along with our July 14th meeting and update the work plan. So following the results of everything that we talked about previously and all of the discussion that happened thereafter, I had a number of conversations with contractors, with vendors, with manufacturers who would be able to assist us in making sure that we are applying the correct preservation, protection, and repair methods for this roof. As you may recall, last time we talked about the excitement of all of this metal and how beautiful it is and how unique it is, which consequently means dollar signs. And as we're looking at all of this, we wanted to examine the We wanted to examine the assemblies that would be appropriate for this. In talking with a number of contractors and those who have completed a lot of work in the area who are capable of this level of detail, we actually ran into a contractor that we've worked with a few times before, and very successfully, I might add. This particular contractor is Western Specialty. We partnered with them for the McLean County roof, the historic courthouse there, and they also recently completed work on the dome at the Illinois State Capitol building. Incidentally, this building was designed by the same architects who designed the Illinois State Capitol building, which hopefully means that the experience translates over. Having said that, we know that not everything will work out as smoothly as we'd like it to if we simply just go straight into the field and put some estimates together and we hope to God that it works. Instead, we've developed a graduated work plan, and that's what's before you tonight. This graduated work plan, the intent, let me try and get this to pop back up. All right, thank you. Yeah, good deal. We're gonna jump back on the roof here. Magic, second time. All right, look at technology. Okay, in looking at the two conditions that we'd like to address, we're first doing this, let me back up. The approach for this is to first do no harm, and then it's to do this with as much preservation in mind as possible. So looking at the pressed metal that's on here, the first step in this work assessment is to take off a section of this, the center cupola, and it's particularly the stonework. And what you see highlighted there on page 3 is where we're intending to do so in one of the corners, about 75 square feet of it. And what we're going to learn from removing and replacing this material, we're going to put some underlayment underneath it so that we're preserving the wood, but we're going to see what condition that wood is in to a much greater degree. We're also going to see how that metal reacts to the removal and reinstallation process, as well as expansion and contraction with any of the different underlayments that we need to use. We're also going to understand how those fasteners respond to everything, because many of those are rivets that are original. And a lot of them are rivets that have been replaced over time or tried to seal up some of these joints. The second portion of this work is that we will then apply an acrylic coating on top of that. We worked with the same manufacturer who provided the coating system, who worked on the Illinois State Capitol building, and they had a significant amount of lead abatement that was involved in that process. We told them that was not an option here. So they dug deep and they found a way to make this happen, but they need to test it, particularly on the materials that are here in situ. And those materials, or what they believe will work, is it's a fleece-based system. Typically, they would have to abrade the metal. They would have to remove a certain amount of lead. We don't have to do that in this case. We're just going to peel off the coating, the painted coating that's on there, without disturbing the lead that's underneath. And then we're going to apply a primer, a fleece, and then an acrylic coating. And that will be over both some of the materials that we remove as well as materials that we don't remove, so that we can understand how those react in different circumstances. So that's why it's 100 square feet. Following that, we will have the northeast tower. Turn around. And this is where it gets more complicated. In order to access this corner of the roof, we're going to have to put some scaffolding up, and we're going to have to remove a corner off of this with all of this intricate detail. And the center cupola has significantly less detailing that's very similar, but all of the metal appears to be the same, all of the turn coating appears to be the same. But here, we're dealing with more soldered joints, we're dealing with a lot more complexity in the profiles, and we also know that the wood here is significantly more deteriorated just from what we've seen on the inside. So in this process, this is going to be a little bit more involved, but that's why we're trying to do this in a graduated way. And from these pieces of work, we're going to learn what it takes in terms of time and what it takes in terms of money to be able to do the rest of the roof. Following all of that, we're going to prepare a report for you, so it'll have a detailed set of information that you'll be able to use to make some informed decisions. We've already begun researching some grant opportunities. We do know, for instance, that IDNR will be releasing some more grant opportunities, hopefully in December. Don't know exactly when that will be yet, but should be coming out. What I do expect, however, is that this roof will exceed many of the grant opportunities that are available. But we don't know that for sure until we start doing some of this work and that we complete all of these steps in the process. And attached to your packet here, these are the 3 proposals. Western Specialty for the center cupola. They have a contract price in there. And these are all T&M proposals not to exceed. And then the second proposal is the paint application, which is acrylic coating. For reference, that acrylic coating that we're proposing here, it's the same kind of coating that they used in a VW plant in the 60s, and it's still working to this day. And then the third proposal that you're seeing here is divided into two parts. It's roofing and sheet metal inspection work. However, if the county wishes to provide their own scaffolding and set that up for this process, it significantly reduces the price. That's what I had for you this evening. Yes, sir.
Just a point of clarification, when we're talking about the acrylic work, what's the longevity of something like that generally? Again, I get weather conditions, birds, impact by meteorites, the whole thing. What's the longevity?
Acrylic coatings in general are not going to last as long as metal, for sure. But I referenced the VW plant because it's the best example that we have for this coating being installed, and that's a 60-year lifespan, and it's still performing very well to this day. We don't know how long it will last. We do know that it's a minimum warranty of 10 years, but they have only warranted it for 10 years because they have no idea what it's going to look like on this surface.
Is there any other questions from anyone? Nothing? Okay.
Just so we're clear.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you, Joel. Go ahead.
So just so we're clear, the overarching goal here is for you guys to tear apart these small portions, get an idea of what it's going to take to do those. These are a representative sample of the whole, and then based on the conclusions that they come up with, we're going to be able to get an estimate or a bid process to do the whole thing. Is exactly what you're trying to do here, correct?
That's exactly right. So we need to be able to ascertain enough detail from this work to be able to give you the whole picture. We don't want a contractor to come in there blank and put a whole lot of money toward it and then not be able to accomplish some of the things, or worse, it costs way more than we expected to.
Okay. And I imagine with winter setting on here, this probably wouldn't be done until next spring?
Ideally, yes. We could do the center cupola portion right now, but we wouldn't be able to tackle both.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, if no other questions then,
Are you wanting these as the same motion, or do you want to split them up?
we can do them the same, if everybody agrees with that. Okay, so we'll just need a motion for both the architectural services scope amendment and the proposals Western Specialty Contractors.
Make a motion to approve the scopes that have been presented.
Okay? and
Second by Ritter.
Wilkie will second that. Yeah, Wilkie had his hand up, sorry. I'm sorry. Roll call, please, Christie.
Okay. Vieti,
Yes.
Bunning,
Yes.
Manker,
Yes.
Barrickman, Allen,
Yes.
Fannin,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Henninga,
Yes.
Kestner, Welch,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Weller, Ritter,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Lovell,
Yes.
Ambrose,
Yes.
Blackard. Blackard? Oh. Airing,
Yes.
Vidstum,
Yes.
Arbogast,
Yes.
Wilkie, Runyon.
Yes.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for coming. And then we'll move down to consent agenda, approval of bills, appointment David Schultz, Dwight Fire Protection District. Need a motion?
I will move it, Madam Chair.
Okay, Bunting, and second Manker. And a roll call on that, please.
Vieti,
Yes.
Bunning,
Yes.
Kirkton, Manker,
Yes.
Barrickman, Allen,
Yes.
Fannin,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Menninga,
Yes.
Kestner, Welch,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Weller,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Lovell,
Yes.
Ambrose,
Yes.
Blackard, Airing,
Yes.
Vidstum,
Yes.
Arbogast,
Yes.
Wilkie, Runyon.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move down to action agenda. Committee reports, Finance Committee, Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's this rolling time of year where we submit for the next year, after a lot of hours of work by our finance folks and our department heads, the proposed budget and levies for the next year, which will begin December 1st. So, I think all, either electronically or in hard copy, that's been provided to you. And what you're being asked to do tonight is make that available to the general public for the next ensuing several weeks before we meet again in November to approve all of the same for one final time. So, I'd motion that we submit that for display.
And we need a second.
Second, Madam Chair, by Fannin.
By Bannon, okay. Any discussion?
Sure, Linda, go ahead.
I have some questions. Can it be amended now at all?
That is a fair question. If need be, at this juncture, yes.
If we have questions, or now's the
Go
time
ahead,
to
Diane.
ask them?
Yeah, Diane, come on.
Okay, on page 253,
And Diane Schwann's our finance director.
okey doke. Here it says it's the ARPA grants for 2022 and 2023, and it was like $500,000 during the first round for the drive-through facility, and then it's $500,000 for the second one? Is that what we allotted?
I believe that's because that wasn't expended the first time around. It's a carryover. That's my
Yeah.
understanding, right?
Right.
Yep, same 5.
So why doesn't it say a million then? It just says 500,000.
Because we're just carrying
This is only
500. We're not
500,000.
expanding it.
We're
to
not
that.
giving them a new 500,000?
No.
No,
No.
okay,
No,
that's
ma'am.
good about that.
No, ma'am.
And then on pages 82 and 84, it says here that a raise for the admin employees, it says this was approved by the executive committee and then approved by the full board in September, but we did not do that in September. But it's in here that we did.
Okay.
Can,
can be
I mean, should that be removed because it's inaccurate information?
I can remove it. I mean, little things like that, I mean, I'm still going through and finding things like those types of things all the time. That was the last thing I put in here before it was a final draft.
Well, it just says we granted the raises and we have, is all.
Right, right. So we know that there will be action taken today. So depending on that response, we would, yes, amend what's in here, not the final numbers. We had talked to the Finance Committee about the fact and the process by which the board goes about approving those, and they had agreed that the numbers themselves that are allocated within the budget would remain the same. If the increases are not approved, they won't be instituted, but the budgetary numbers would not be changed.
Okay, so after a discussion, then that would be taken
But
out possibly?
definitely the narrative that
The
is
timing,
there.
the
Yes.
timing would change.
Yes.
It'd be October, not September.
Okay, okay, thank you, that's all I
Point
have.
well taken.
That's it.
Any general remarks, Diane?
I just, I want to thank all of the department officials for kind of enduring a round of changes that that I wanted to implement. It was a little different this year than most. And Alina for kind of, finally having all of it come together, because it was like, it was a labor of love, I think. Yeah, it was, like I said. And also this budget is divided into some sections, so it'll be easy to find any kind of information that you might be looking for, whether it's background about the county, background about a department or a division. We put some supplemental information in the back, which didn't really have a place in the previous budget. I mean, we put it in, but it it never really seemed to have a spot, but now in the back, we put some supplemental information for just reference for just, you know, bits and pieces of information. I think that's about it. It was, like I said, it was interesting, and like I said, it took a little bit of time, and there were lots of changes, and everybody was very accommodating, so.
Made a good effort to explain things a little more than in prior years.
Thank you.
Awesome job.
And just keep in mind that it is presented as a draft. We have not went through and proofread it. There could be some minor changes, but we're not anticipating any substantive changes.
You would proofread it a second time,
We will.
correct? Yes. You proofread it, it just would be number 2. Yeah, good. Well, thanks, Diane.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? If not, the motion was made by Schaefer and the second was by Bannon. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so we need a roll call, please.
Vieti,
Yes.
Bunning,
No.
Manker,
No.
Berkman,
Yes.
Allen. Yes. Bannon,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Miniga,
Yes.
Kestner, Welch,
No.
Carly,
Yes.
Weller,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Lovell,
Yes.
Ambrose,
No,
Ehring,
Yes.
Fitstum,
No.
Arbogast,
Yes.
Wilkie, Runyon.
Yes.
Great, thanks. Moving along, over the last month, the aforementioned, Linda had brought up ARPA. We addressed a couple things under ARPA. Again, reviewed some additional presentations. And after concluding those discussions and presentations, as a finance committee, we were inclined toward granting the request of the Mutual Aid Association for some radio equipment, which to make the emergency 911 system work in the more rural areas, that's kind of essential. And then secondarily, we were favorably impressed that Futures Unlimited did a very substantive job of explaining why they needed what they asked for. And at the end of that, concluded that that request should be granted as well. The Mutual Aid Association, as you can see, is for $250,000, and the ARPA proposal is for, or the Futures is for $1,200,000. So that being said, I would motion that those be approved jointly.
Okay, and second by Bunting. Any discussion? Mark?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, with what we had approved in the past, and if this is approved now, how much of the funds that we have got have we now, if, assuming this passes, what have we awarded and what's left?
So we previously had allocated $3,535,626.89. Once these are approved, we will have remaining $1,938,579.11, and the goal was to allocate some or a portion thereof towards broadband initiatives.
Okay, thank you.
So just under 2 million is what you said, Alina, I'm sorry?
Yes, that's correct.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll have a roll call, please.
Vieti,
Yes.
Bunning,
Yes.
Manker,
Yes.
Berkman,
Yes.
Allen. Yes. Bannon,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Miniga,
Yes.
Kestner, Welch,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Weller,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Mays,
Present.
Lovell,
Yes.
Ambrose,
Yes.
Herring,
Yes.
Vidstem,
Yes.
Arbogast,
Yes.
Wilkie, Runyon.
Yes.
Thank you, and that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Now we'll move down to Ag and Zoning Committee, Jason Bunting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 4 action items to bring forth to you today. All solar permits. As the amended agenda shows, we're going to start with B, zoning case SU-10-22, Oxeye Solar. Seth and Molly, you have the floor. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Seth Upoff, and I'm here on behalf of Trajectory Energy Partners to make our last presentation to you. I have with me here a representative from the company, Molly Snitcher, and Molly and I will be available for any questions as we go through this. We've got 3 projects here in a row that we're going to go through. They'll be voted on individually, as I've been informed by the chair. And the first one we'll go through in a little bit more detail just to provide some of the information that was repeated in the subsequent presentations. And then as we go through those subsequent presentations, we'll get more to the specifics of those particular projects. So as we go through this, you've been provided with a packet that has these slides that we're going to be going through, or at least the majority of those slides. And all the slides that you have in your presentation were presented to the ZBA. So the first, pardon me, the first project we're going to discuss was referred to as Oxeye Solar. Oxeye Solar is a 4 megawatt project that was located in the village of Rowe here in Livingston County. So up here on the screen you can see that right here on the edge of Rowe is where the panels are set up. This one is a little bit different from our other projects, as these are going to be fixed panels. Due to the size and layout of this particular plot, it was determined that the most useful set of arrays to put here would be fixed panels. And then around in the green, that is the area that's going to be the vegetative buffer between the project and the residences that neighbor it. We talked about to the ZBA Community Solar and provided information about the legislation that made this possible. We talked about Trajectory Energy Partners, the fact that they're an Illinois-based company and some of the projects they've done here in Illinois. And then we got to the specifics of the project. As we were going through, one of the things that was commented on was that we're going to be using existing infrastructure. There's an existing 12 kilovolt line that runs along the road here, and so we'll be using that as a point of interconnection. There will be no need for any upgrades. We'll be able to use existing infrastructure. We provided information about the construction process and how we go through that. Some of that information is provided here. I won't go through it in detail, but we outlined all of those items. And one point worth noting for all of the projects that Trajectory is putting forward, there are no batteries that are going to be on site. So any of the questions or issues that people may feel pertain to batteries will not be applicable on these projects. Again, the green area marks the vegetative buffer area that's going to be between the solar arrays and the residences. It's 100 feet all the way around there, and there was some additional vegetation that was planned and requested by the zoning administration to go south all the way to the road. That vegetation is going to be a mix of native prairie grasses along with some of these shrubs or small trees such as sumac, willow, dogwood, ornamental native trees here to Illinois. The site and all of these sites are going to be pollinator-friendly sites. In order to qualify for that, you have to follow all these different various requirements. You have to get reapproved every 3 years, so it requires the solar operator to continue to stay on top of those issues and maintain it so that they still qualify. And it requires you to follow the Noxious Weeds Act and all the other weed acts that are applicable here in Illinois to keep down on any inappropriate weeds. This gives a high-level view of where this project is located. It's in the purple there in the center. As you can see, it's surrounded, at least to the east, by the landfill and then the Enbridge pipe farm, tank farm and pipe system there, and then the village of Rowe to the west. This site in particular was selected for various reasons, but one of the reasons is that it also fits into what's called an R3 zone, which is restore, reinvest, and renew, part of some of the legislation that went through and makes it eligible for additional grant programs. Another thing that was particular about this project was the actual farmland itself. Here, the Livingston County Soil and Water Conservation District rated this as a low impact to agriculture. It has a relatively low LISA score, L-E-S-A, and we also had testimony presented at the ZBA by the landowners in relation to the cropland here. The landowners are the Falmer brothers. The Falmer family has been farming here in Livingston County for over 100 years. They've owned this property for, I think, right about 50 years, and they testified as to the quality of the farming there. And Mike Falmer testified, and to quote Mike, he referred to this as a, quote, terrible piece of dirt. This is a farm that does not produce well for them. In fact, it usually produces about half of what their other farms do. And so there are some years where the production barely keeps up with the cost of inputs. This is sort of hard, Cugie Ridge, clay ground, and does not do well and hasn't done well for them as a productive piece of farmland. We provided information about the injection of the investment dollars and the jobs that will come into Livingston County. We pointed out that this will be a job that's performed by Illinois Union Labor. That would be the operators, the carpenters, and the electrical. And then we got into the tax revenue side of it, showing the tax increases for this particular piece of property. You can see some of that information down here at the bottom. And then this is highlighting, particularly, at least I would highlight, the increase for Pontiac Grade School and Pontiac High School. So I think the math on these works out to a little bit over 6,800% increase in tax revenue, at least first year, for these particular projects. So you see it jumps from a little over $100 to over $11,000 and over $8,000. And then when you look at the lifetime of the project, the amount that's gained is over $500,000, closing in on $600,000. We talked about how these are community solar projects, so they provide an opportunity for savings all across Livingston County for any of the rate users that are in this particular system. Trajectory is trying to focus on and is committing to trying to fill as many of these subscriptions with Livingston County rate users as is possible, and they're providing a 20% discount off of all of the rates for those users. We provided information showing how that discount works. I'm not going to go into the details here, but suffice it to say, if you get a bill for $100, you're only going to end up paying $80. You get a 20% discount. We talked about how these types of projects help support the grid using existing infrastructure, and over the course of time, that's going to save a considerable amount of money. The projections are, by 2031, $1.21 billion being saved because we won't have to put in upgrades for some of these electrical systems. We also talked about decommissioning, which is following the leave no trace system where everything gets removed. All the panels, all the racks, any pads that are poured in concrete, all the shrubs, all the fencing, all of it is ripped out and returned to the current state of the farm ground as it is now, and that's required under the Agricultural Impact Mitigation Agreement. We also talked about through the decommissioning process, and I will go back and point out one more thing. For each of these, in relation to decommissioning, there is a bond that's going to be placed to support future decommissioning and to protect Livingston County, so that in the event the company would ever not be able to go through the cost of doing the decommissioning, there would be a bond in place and Livingston County would be able to do it without any cost to the taxpayers. As they go through the decommissioning process, the majority of these panels and the systems are recyclable, and there's recycling programs throughout the country. Illinois is hoping to come on board soon with recycling programs. And then we talked about the outreach to the neighbors. In this particular situation, there was additional outreach because we had multiple residences that were immediately adjacent to the property. And we went out and knocked doors there in Row and talked to everybody. And what we found was that all of the residents that were directly adjacent to the project were supportive. 3 of them signed their names to a letter of support that was submitted to the ZBA. The other 3, while they didn't want to put their names down, did voice vocal support for the project, indicating that they thought having particularly the vegetative buffer on their rear yards would be preferable to them than the current farming. So we had the support of neighbors, and then we also had the support of the GLC EDC when we talked about the investment that comes with this and the injection of the dollars into Livingston County, that drew the support for the Greater Livingston County Economic Development Council. We then talked about how we will still have permitting and inspection processes to go through with the county, and that we'll still have opportunities for you to overview and see what's going on and make sure that we're doing it the right way. And then there was expert testimony that was presented by the firm of Cohn Resnick on property value impact. And the testimony for this particular project was from Andrew Lyons, who's been an expert and testified many times. He's testified here in Livingston County multiple times. And overall, they reviewed all the academic studies. They went out and did studies themselves. They talked to assessors. They talked to realtors. They gathered all this information. And ultimately, the conclusions they reached were that these types of projects do not show any consistent negative impact on the property values or the marketability for adjacent projects. So ultimately, their expert opinion was that these types of solar projects will not have a negative impact on those property values. With that, we presented all of that information to the ZBA. They took all of that into consideration. They noted that we checked all the boxes for the requirements under the code, and that we met all the special use requirements. And with that, the ZBA gave unanimous approval and recommendation to the county board for it to pass this project. And so in relation to Oxeye Solar, based on all that information and the ZBA's recommendation, we would be asking you to approve that project tonight.
Questions for Seth or Molly?
I have one quick one.
Mark?
Can you tell me how many farmable acres of this project's going to?
Yes, this is a 25-acre plot.
25 acres?
Yes.
Thank you.
You asked about said we had a bond payment to be down. This is going on private property. Why does the county be liable to take that out?
I'm sorry.
You talked about there would be a bond for taking it out, set with the, why would the county be liable for taking that out if it's put on private property?
One of the special use conditions and requirements of the zoning is that there is a bond that's placed, because oftentimes property owners wouldn't have the funds available to be able to do it themselves. And so because the county is granting a special use, as a condition of that, we're providing a bond to Livingston County so that if need be, the county can go in and take these materials out without any additional cost to the taxpayers or to the landowners in that particular place.
Any other questions? I will move it, Madam Chair.
Okay, you need a second? Airing? Okay, no other discussion? Need a roll call, please.
Piety.
Yes.
Bunning.
Yes.
Manker.
Yes.
Berkman.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Fannin.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Menninga.
Yes.
Kestner. Welch.
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
Weller. Ritter.
Yes.
Mays.
No.
Lovell.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Herring.
Yes.
Bitstum.
Yes.
Arbogast.
Yes.
Wilkie. Runyon.
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, moving on to zoning case SU-7-22, Old 66 Solar. Seth, Reader's Digest version?
Will do. This time will be a little bit shorter since I covered some of the general topics. So as we get to Old 66 Solar, this is a 2-megawatt project. It's on 24 acres. This is located at the turn in Deerfield Road. So if you go north from the Wendy's, right about where it turns to head back to the east, this is the piece of land that's directly straight ahead. This is a piece that's sort of sandwiched in between there and Interstate 55. It's not a great piece of farm ground, but it's not the worst either. But in this particular situation, the landowner saw it as an opportunity to better utilize that space along that area. Again, this will be connecting to an existing 12 kilovolt line, so no additional infrastructure or high tension wires will be needed. There was a request for some additional screening, which is designated here in green, which you can see will go along the southern edge and the eastern edge. to provide some additional screening to the neighbors in that area. We meet all of the setback details and all of the screening requirements under the ordinance. And here's a more high-level view of where that's located. There is some area back there along the river that would be in the flood zone, but this project does not invade into that flood zone area. We're not allowed to build in there, so we'll be staying out of that particular area under this project design. Again, we talked about the injection of the investment into the county, and then we talked about the tax increases. Here again, you'll see significant tax increases for this particular plot of land, jumping from $200 and $300 up to over $4,000, $5,000. Significant increases for Pontiac Grade School and Pontiac High School, and over the life of the project, you can see there's a significant amount of tax dollars that will come in. And as was testified to during the hearing, this will provide additional savings to all the community rate users who decide to subscribe, and again at that 20% discounted rate. We also had a lot of outreach in this area. Primarily, we had the Phoenix Apartments as the closest neighbor and has obviously a significant number of people who are living there. Had discussions with the Phoenix Apartments, and the Phoenix Apartments actually signed a letter of support, which was presented to the ZBA. They really wanted to see this project go in there, number one, to provide savings for the residents, but also because while they're not against farming, in their particular situation, because of the prevailing winds during harvest, they would get a lot of trash blowing into the landscaping around their facility, and they were having to go out and do extra work to clean that up. We also had the support of the GLC EDC again for this project, and we presented expert testimony from Cone Resnick. This time it was Patricia McGarr, who's actually the head of that particular company's division on this, and is the head of the state board in relation to appraisals. She, again, provided testimony that there's no consistent negative impact that they've been able to find on the property values or the marketability of any adjacent land, whether it be residential or farmland, in relation to these projects. So again, based on all that information, the ZBA determined that we had checked all the correct boxes, we had met all the requirements of the code, we had met all the requirements for the SUP, and they gave unanimous approval to recommend this board approve this project. And so we are asking you to do that tonight.
Questions for Seth? Chairman Paul?
Seth, just a point of clarification, realizing that the two proposed solar farms are separated. The first one was 25 acres. The second one is 24 acres. The first one is 4 megawatts, and the second one is 2. What's causing the difference in megawatts with 1 acre being different?
Do you want to answer that? I'll let Molly answer that. I think I could, but I'll let her, since she's with the company, and hopefully will answer it very clearly for you.
So part of it is because of the shape of the project. In this one, you can see that it's kind of in a triangle shape, and so it's a little bit more difficult to fit the panels in that way. And then the second reason is that for this project, it will be using tracker panels, which are a little bit bigger, because they track with the sun as the day goes on to capture the most amount of power.
So if they're tracking with the sun and the panels are slightly bigger, would they be then capturing more energy? And again, I don't understand the difference, because it seems like with this one, we have, again, a abbreviated plan to some degree with angles, but we're using larger tracking panels instead of having fixed ones. It seems like to me, and again, I don't have a clear understanding of why one is half the megawattage.
It's essentially just the site design of the project and the type of the panels, because the fixed panels are just going to sit and be tilted, so they can be much closer together, and there's more panels in that project.
Okay, I'll leave it at that.
That's what I was going to say. My understanding from speaking with the company representatives and when they testified at the hearing was when they were putting in the fixed panels, the way they were able to stagger them and place them in there provided for greater productivity from that particular spot as opposed to this one, because that specific question was asked at the ZBA presentation.
Mr. Runyon?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something. This property here borders the interstate highways, right?
That's correct.
And there's not going to be an issue with the state of Illinois with putting a project like that bumping right up against their interstate?
No.
I just want to make sure that we don't get ourselves in something with the state of Illinois.
Yeah, no, there's no issues there. And in fact, if you've driven down south on Interstate 55 to Springfield anytime recently, right before you get to, I guess it's after Lincoln?
It's
Between
after
Lincoln and
Lincoln.
Springfield.
Mhm.
There's a solar farm that actually crosses right over Interstate 55. So there's panels on the east side and the west side. You drive right through it. And they'll be probably closer to the interstate there than these will be here.
Okay.
Any other questions for Seth or Molly?
I have one.
Yes.
The difference in the two projects is 1 acre, and I know the one farm produces more electricity. So on the one farm, the taxes increased to $11,458. On the other farm, it's only $57.29. Is it because of the difference in the megawatt produced?
I'm not sure. There's a complicated formula that they go through to determine the tax basis for those, and I don't have it memorized, and so I couldn't tell you. I just know that this is the information that was put out and presented, and I think it just has to do with probably the calculation of the output, in addition to it being compared to I think the base rates of the taxes. This base rate on Old 66 is higher than it was out at Oxeye, so that also plays into the calculation as well, I believe.
It's like the tax rate's about the same. Well, I guess I don't understand why it's just so much less. I understand it makes a little less electricity, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, those formulas are put forward by the state of Illinois, so it's not Trajectory's choice, it's just the way the math works out based on the legislation.
Any other questions from members of the board? I'll entertain a motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Okay, need a second? Mr. Ritter? No other discussion? Ask for a roll call, please.
Piety,
Yes.
Bunning,
Yes.
Manker. Yes. Berkman,
Abstain.
Allen,
Yes.
Bannon,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Menninga,
Yes.
Tessner, Welch,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Weller,
Abstain.
Ritter,
Yes.
Mays,
No.
Lovell,
Yes.
Ambrose,
No.
Herring,
Yes.
Vidstum,
Yes.
Arbogast,
Yes.
Wilkie, and Runyon.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Moving on to third and final for trajectory, zoning case SU-8-22, Broadlight Solar. Seth, you have the floor again.
Thank you. So for our final presentation and the final project here from Trajectory Energy, we've got the Broadlight project, and I'll leave this screen up just to start with here so you can get an idea of where this is located. As you can see over here in the southeast corner of the screen, or the bottom right corner of the screen, is the Enbridge tank farm. And so Row would be right down here near where the other project was located. So this is about a mile over and a mile up from where that was, and it sits on a 40-acre parcel right here near the intersection. This is a larger project, so this is a 5-megawatt project on 40 acres. But again, it connects to existing 12 kilovolt lines that run along the road down here, so no need for any upgrading of infrastructure. As we went through this project and presented the information, we noted the fact that down here in the southeast corner, there's a residence that's located, and so there was a longer or wider setback along this side and along the side of the road. There's 100-foot setbacks, and additional screening is planned to go into those particular areas, which I guess is not indicated on this particular screen. It will be on subsequent slides. When talking about this particular project, that was one of the concerns, was the fact that there was a residence that was located here close by, and I'll touch on why the ZBA, or why I believe the ZBA approved this project in spite of that fact. We also had conversations with the neighbors who farmed this parcel here and the neighbor who lived here. The neighbor living here just had concerns about potential sight lines, and the neighbor who farms this plot to the west had some concerns about the potential for weed seed to blow onto their farm property. So as we went through this, we talked with those neighbors, we worked with the zoning department, and we came up with additional screening options. Number one, to help screen the area here for the residents, but then we also extended along the west side vegetative screening that whole way. Although after speaking with those neighbors, particularly the neighbor who was farming that area, there was a determination made that what they would prefer to have there would be a grass setback. So that is a 50-foot setback from that western boundary line to where the project begins, and they preferred that be put in grass, maybe some clover, and Trajectory agreed to work with the Soil and Water Conservation District to come up with an appropriate seed mix to plant along there, probably be brome grass and some other types of grasses, and that is what will go along the western edge. Additionally, we discussed the fact that, sorry, I didn't mean to move that slide there. We discussed the fact that there is a large tile that runs through this property. So up here is a property that's owned and farmed by Mr. Bill Brummel and his wife, and they installed a pattern tile up there, and then that pattern tile system feeds into a large main tile that runs down into the project. It then cuts over to the western side, goes down the western side before cutting back into the project and exiting out the south end of the property here over across into an even larger tile on the neighboring property to the south. So there were some concerns during the hearing about the placement of these panels and whether or not they might impact that tile, whether they could cause damage, whether these solar arrays would cause any issues with access to the tile for any potential repair. Now, at the time of the ZBA hearing, we went through the fact that under the Illinois Drainage Code and under the Livingston County Code, the builders are required to go out and map all of the tile that's existing on the farm, and we have to avoid it and protect it, and if there's any damage to it, we have to repair it. We also are responsible under the Illinois Drainage Code going forward for any drainage issues, just as any other farm neighbor would be. If you've got a tile running through your system that feeds and aids either your neighbor to the north, south, east, or west, and something goes wrong on your property, you have a duty to work with them to try to get it cleared up, and if you don't, they can come onto your property and take care of it. So same thing would apply here, and after going through the hearing, the ZBA determined that with those safeguards, that would be sufficient to move forward. And I guess I would like to interject here a piece of public comment. After the ZBA hearing, we had conversations with Mr. Brummel because we wanted to make sure that we were properly respecting the tile and making sure that we were going to steer clear of it. So after conversations with Mr. Brummel, we worked out an agreement whereby Trajectory is going to make sure that they're placing their panels in such a way that they're going to have sufficient setbacks from that tile so that there's not going to be any fear of puncturing the tile during installation, and that there will be sufficient access to that tile after the installation of the project. And Mr. Brummel sent me a message this afternoon and asked me to read it to the board tonight because he could not be here. And he said, to the County Board of Livingston County, this is on behalf of Bill and Linda Brummel, we want to acknowledge and make it known that we have reached an agreement with Trajectory Energy Partners in regard to the safeguarding of the main tile line that we own a portion of that is located on the Bolin Solar Farm location. We sincerely appreciate their efforts in coming to an agreement with us to maintain the integrity of the drainage system while developing their project. Sincerely, Bill and Linda Brummel. So I say that, I guess, as public comment in relation to how we worked to address that issue after the meeting and have satisfied Mr. and Mrs. Brummel in that regard. So moving forward then, again, we talked about the economics of it, and again, because of the economics of the program, the GLC EDC gave its support. We also, again, talked about the tax implications and the increases that can be expected. This one, I'll point out, the others were all Pontiac Grade and Pontiac High School. This one is Pontiac Grade School, but then for high school, it's Flanagan Cornell. So this project is going to provide a significant tax increase for the Flanagan Cornell School District Being an alum of that, I appreciate that personally. Jumping back to the residents, because that was one of the significant issues in this particular presentation, in this particular project. Obviously, there's a residence that's located here, and the project is right here. We've got a 100-foot setback. That setback was increased to add additional vegetation and additional buffers to try to make it less visible. And we also talked about the distances, because this particular farmstead is set up in such a way where along the western edge there's a very mature windbreak set of trees that are evergreens that make a very strong screen here, so you can't see really anything to the west. Additionally, they have a large shed here, and the way those two sheds are staggered, there's actually no sight line from the house between the sheds. So the only sight line from the house to the project is this one that runs up from the back side of the house, and to the first panel it's 730 feet. So it's a pretty long distance in terms of that sight line. But as you'll see from some photos here in just a moment, there's also a tree line that has been planted here that is still growing, and eventually will probably end up causing a screen that would make the site invisible from the house going forward. So again, showing some of the distances here. And then this is some of the photos from that particular farmstead. So as you'll see up here on the upper right-hand side of the screen, this is the very established tree line. You can also see there's a heavy amount of trees around the residence and through the front yard of the residence as it is. This is the sight line if you were looking from sort of the side of the house to the west-northwest. So you can see that the shed itself blocks the majority of that view. Additionally, you can see here, again, the sight lines from the house. You can't see from the house past these sheds. Any way you look this direction, those sight lines are blocked. This also gives you a good view of, again, the amount of tree lines that are in here that are blocking the view. And you can also see here the tree line that's being established that ultimately will end up blocking the view to that side as well. This shows what the view would look like from the back deck. This is where it would be about 730 feet out from this deck out here where the site would be. So you can see it's going to be pretty tough to see. When there's beans there, there's a chance you're going to see it. If the corn's up, I don't think there'd be any chance that you'd be able to see it. And going forward one more, this is in the backyard out right behind the deck. So again, you'd be over 700 feet from this spot out here to the project. You can see some of these trees are starting to grow up, and obviously if there was standing corn here, you wouldn't be able to see much past that corn. So all of those things were taken into consideration by our experts, because the Cohn-Resnick experts testified in this hearing as well. They actually went out to that site. They went to all of the sites that we talked about tonight, but in this one I'll particularly point out that site because that residence was listed for sale when this project was announced. The owners of that residence, I spoke with them personally, and they indicated to me that this project was, quote, the straw that broke the camel's back. So they were moving because of this particular project. However, they told me they've been thinking about moving before because, as I showed before, they were in fairly close proximity to the landfill. They actually had one of the property value guarantee agreements from the landfill because they were within that range. They told me they could oftentimes smell the landfill from where they were at, and they were dealing with those issues. They also indicated that one of the significant factors in their wanting to move was that the Enbridge activity was increasing, and with that increased Enbridge activity and the landfill, they were already on the brink, and then when they heard this project was coming, that pushed them over the edge. However, what was noted is that they listed their property for sale, and within less than 21 days, they had it sold for nearly all of the asking price, and within that same period of time, they were able to secure a contract on a house here in Livingston County, down towards the quarries, towards Weston, and they were going to be actually having a greater acreage and another homestead down there that when they spoke to me, they were very happy about. So was there an issue with a neighbor of this project? There was, but under all of those circumstances, they never came to any of the meetings to present any objections and told me that I could inform the ZBA of all that information that I just informed you of, and that was all taken into consideration. It was also noted by the property value experts when they were talking about how, how quickly the property sold and how it, in terms of market time and the price they got for it. In fact, they didn't even have to utilize the property value guarantee they had from the landfill because they got such a good price for the house. So again, the testimony from the expert was that these types of projects do not negatively impact the property values of the surrounding properties. So taking into consideration that information, and in particular the sight lines for the project in relation to the homestead and the pictures that we showed, and after thinking through the tile issues with Mr. Brummel, having taken all those things into consideration, the ZBA still confirmed that we met all of the requirements of the ordinance, met all the requirements of the SUP, and they gave unanimous consent for this board to approve our project. So with that recommendation and with all that information, we're asking you to approve that project tonight.
Are there any questions for Seth, or did he answer them all?
Was there any other objections other than the one that you just laid out?
No, the neighbors that I referenced earlier in terms of the weeds and all of that, but we addressed those issues by agreeing to a grass seed mix, and then the issue with the tile, which has now been addressed, those were the only objections. The residents, the homeowners there never came to object, but we raised that issue with the ZBA so that they were informed of it and knew of it as they were making their decision.
Any other questions?
Are the new homeowners happy with it?
We have not heard from them yet.
The new homeowners were aware, though, that this project was going on.
I don't know. We haven't had any, we weren't informed who they were yet. They didn't inform us who the buyers were because the contract was still being finalized and the closing was still moving forward. And so I think, I don't know if it's closed by now, but at the time that we were going through ZBA, we did not have any information as to who the buyers were.
Gina?
I'm sorry, Gina.
I just want to say, I work in real estate, so the house that he's talking about has had an offer on it. And now they're in the process of working on the financing for the house, so it's not actually sold yet. It's not final.
It hasn't closed, is that correct?
It has not closed, and don't even have a schedule for that yet.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be material information that the seller would be pretty much legally required to tell the potential buyer that a solar farm is going in next to their property?
No. Well, you can answer, but it's no.
You
Sorry.
can, Joel, because it's not final. We haven't approved it yet.
Right, but
There's nothing they can tell him.
generally speaking, a quite broad responsibility for a seller in real estate closing to inform buyers of encumbrances or issues related to the property. I would hope that they have been told, and if they have not, if I was the buyer, I'd be disappointed.
And I would also note that the memo of the lease would be recorded on our title, and so that would be public information that anyone could find out that a solar company has a lease on the adjacent property.
Yep, I see you, Ron. Go ahead. Great to see you. Ron, Mike, please. I apologize.
There we go. Thank you. Seth, is there any limits? This is a large parcel. Is there any limit that you foresee in the amount of acreage in the future for these projects?
Well, this is the end of the trajectory projects that are being presented to Livingston County. So at this point in time, there are none others that have been applied for. So I don't know what trajectory's plans will be long-term. Obviously, this body is working through a moratorium process, which may or may not go into effect. And if it goes into effect, then it's likely there's going to be changes to the ordinance. So I don't know how that will affect any trajectory or any other company's intent to come to Livingston County. But as of right now, Trajectory does not have any other projects that have been applied for. It was just these three post one that was approved last month, and I think the total combined acreage of all those 4 projects was 130 acres or less.
Okay, thank you.
And I would also note that these are all community solar projects, and community solar projects are limited to 5 megawatts, and that is only about 50 acres or so per project. So community solar projects are smaller and limited in that way. Yes.
That's correct.
Thank you for that information, Molly. I was going to say it, but I probably would have butchered it. So thank you. Any other questions? Move to approve, Madam Chair.
Okay. Need a second by Mr. Wilkie. No other discussion. I need a roll call, please.
Vieti.
Yes.
Bunning.
Yes.
Manker.
No.
Berkman.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Fannin.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes?
Menninga.
Yes.
Kestner. Welch.
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
Weller. Ritter.
Yes.
Hayes.
No.
Lovell.
Yes.
Ambrose.
No.
Herring.
Yes.
Vidstum.
Yes.
Arbogast.
Yes.
Wilkie. And Runyon.
No.
Sixteen ayes and 4 nays.
Thank you, Christie. Motion passes. Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Molly. Appreciate your time you put forth.
Thank you, and I just wanted to say to this board, on behalf of Trajectory and myself personally, thank you for your time and attention. I know it's a lot of information we threw out there. We've really appreciated the cooperation of Livingston County in trying to work through the technology issues, and also all of the good questions and the input and the active participation by all the members of this board. So we thank you very much, and we appreciate it, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
Okay, moving on to our fourth and final, SU-5-22 USS Man Solar. I think the representative is Ryan. Ryan? Do you have handouts or? You have the floor, sir. Good evening.
I appreciate it. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to present this project here tonight with you guys. I am Ryan Mignoni. I'm the project developer with United States Solar Corporation. This is actually our first project in Livingston County, and our only project at this time that we're looking to pursue within the county. Just kind of want to go through here a few high levels of our company. We are a Midwest-based company that primarily focused in Minnesota, and we kind of focused our efforts there to make sure we knew what we were doing, and then started to branch out to other states, and Illinois is kind of the next state that we focused in on, and specifically, we've been in Illinois for about 4 years and have about 4 or 5 projects within the state of Illinois. I'm a proud resident of Illinois, so some of these projects definitely hit home with me. We got approximately 80 megawatts worth of projects that are actually producing power today, and we have about 200 to 250 megawatts actually within our development pipeline. As a company, we are a developer, owner, and operator of all of our projects. So we don't just develop our projects and then sell them off to subscription companies or companies that will operate them. We do all of that in-house. So there's only one contact that our landowners would have, or that Livingston County would have if there's any issues or questions specifically with our projects. Kind of briefly, I know Trajectory talked about this, but community solar in general is kind of the idea of making solar available to everyone. Everyone meaning that if you don't have the means or the methods to put solar on your roof, then you can be able to subscribe to a project that we build, as long as that's in the utility territory that it's specifically located in. And since all of that's done in-house with our company, it's kind of a fairly simple process. You're calling up our company specifically and just setting up your utility bill with us. And once you've done that, you can see everything through our subscription program, which we call is a sunscription program, and everything is seen on your utility bill, and then you can just pay that subscription typically we see anywhere to a 10 to 20% in your locked-in savings rate when you sign up with our company specifically. Just kind of going through again here that you submit an application on our website, or you can also give us a call, and then you share your billing history with us, and then it's an authorization once that project specifically that you signed up with has gone into full operation. So once the project's in operation, then that specific subscriber, either through residential, through business, through government office, they will start then seeing those electrical savings. To jump into our project specifics now, is this is going to be a 4 megawatt size project, which will bring approximately enough power to support about 900 individual single-family homes. The project is located on approximately 23 acres of the 58-acre total parcel. So there's a lot of timber on the north side of the property. There's also a small stream that runs through the north side of the property as well. That timber will not be touched. We are maintaining all of that, and this will just be on the tillable acreage that lies to the south. Now, because of the river that does flow through the northern part of the site, or the stream that flows through that, when there are heavy rains and stuff, that does swell and does dump clay deposits on this piece of property. So the soils themselves aren't the greatest during some months or some years because of the stream that lies down there, and it can deposit some of those materials. Our project has been presented to all of the boards within Livingston County and has met all of the ordinance under the Article 8-B within Livingston County. And then the Commonwealth Edison subscribers, like I mentioned earlier, are able to subscribe and save on their bills. The project citing and why this project is useful to our company, useful to the landowner, and useful to residents and businesses within Livingston County is specifically the electrical line that runs along 3000 North Road, which I will switch to that slide real quick to kind of give everyone an idea. I apologize, the remote's not working. So this is our site plan. The power line runs along that east-west road there, which is east 3000 North Road. And the substation specifically is about 8,000 feet to the west, right along that roadway. There's also a transmission line that the substation passes, or the transmission line passes right by. Everything to the north of that project is that timber area that I was talking about before. And the project lies kind of within two different sections, an east section and a west section, and then there's a gap between there for sightline views for the residents in the middle. And then there's also all the setbacks that are on, or as the requirement of Livingston County. What we've done specifically with this project is we've actually pushed this about an additional 35 to 40 feet further north than what Livingston County requirements setbacks are, which is 100 feet for residential setbacks. This sits a minimum of 135 feet to allow the residents that's in that southwest area to have better sight line. And then we're also proposing to have landscaping completely around there. The solar panels themselves will be located about 150 feet on the east and the west sides, and then over about 350 to 400 feet on the north side. The main concern from that specific landowner was actually before we had proposed this project and before the landowner came to us, was that she was looking to sell her property. And in addition to that, we wanted to make sure those sight lines were better. There's also, I provided an image up on the north. It's a little small on the screen. I do apologize for that. But there is a handful of trees that already exist there, and then we will be proposing that additional landscape screening. There's also one resident to the east of the project. Their house is that furthest southeast square that's located right next to the number 1. And there's the image from that, from the street is located just above. And there's a handful of very mature trees that lie around this property as well. We spoke with this resident. Their main concern was being able to see their sunsets to the west. However, with those existing trees, and if they do end up taking those down in the future, then there's more of that sight line to the east. Currently, with how far the project is pushed to the north, there's no ability for this project to actually impact any view from the west, because the project sits further north than where that residential structure actually sits there. So that was the two main concerns from that, from those particular residents. Going back briefly is we have a handful of studies. Trajectory also talked about this as well, is the land value studies and the resale value studies that have been done since solar has been around for a few years, that there's no direct impact that has been seen from solar installed near a residential or a commercial development. Some of the visual characteristics of our projects is these are single access tracking. We do just a single panel on top of the pole, so because of that, it's a much smaller system. They only sit about 6 to 8 feet off the ground at maximum height. The panels specifically will provide no glare. The idea of a PV solar system is to absorb the light energy from the sun, so anything that is reflected back is only lost energy. We would like to install a farm-style type fence, kind of very similar to the one picture that's there on the right. This is a wood post and woven wire fence. I know Livingston County, and what we had discussed with the zoning board is we will accept whatever Livingston County has within its conditions. We feel that this type of fence is, or at least doesn't make it feel like it's put in a jail cell in any way. However, we do understand that this is your county, you guys have your standards, so whatever is the required standard when we do submit for our building permit, as long as this does get approved here tonight, is what we are willing to install there out on our project. And then also, we will be installing a full native and pollinator habitat beneath the panels and inside the entire fence area. And this habitat will provide additional pollinators for some of the plants and some of the farmland within the area, and hopefully provide even better nutrients to the soil once this project is decommissioned in about 20 to 30 years from now. And just like Trajectory had mentioned, that the AMA agreement that is required within the state of Illinois is something that we will have to provide that bonding in place prior to receiving our building permit. Some of the construction items here is that there's the only concrete that will be installed as part of our projects is the pad for the transformer itself and the switch gears. all of the posts are just manually or driven into the ground. And with that, we will do a geotechnical study and a site study to ensure that the piles are driven in far enough so that if there is any heavy wind that is done, that we make sure that our site is designed for that. We also do a site drain tile study. We do have a drain tile map that was provided by the landowners and by their farmer, and we ensure that that will not be disturbed during the construction itself. We're looking at approximately about a 10 to 12 week timeline for construction, and then we'll have to do final approvals with the utility company to make sure that this project can be flipped on and operational. Really quick here on operation, the landowner specifically is actually wanting to do something called an agrivoltaic system, or using the land not just for solar, but for multiple uses through the pollinator type habitat, as well as looking at the possibility of including possible sheep grazing as an additional bonus to this project. We have approximately 5 of these type of solar gardens in operation right now, and this is actually one of ours from Minnesota that the sheep are just grazing out in the middle of the site itself. Just a few additional benefits here that this project can provide if the project is approved here tonight and by the state of Illinois, and that is the financial savings aspect of it. The upgrades to the electrical infrastructure that is solely done by U.S. Solar and is calculated by the applications that we submit to Commonwealth Edison. This property will bring in approximately $24,000 to $32,000 of additional tax money. That's already on top of what the landowner would pay. So this is a separate tax bill, a real estate tax bill that's put in place by the state of Illinois. That calculation is based off of an approximation that's been found in that calculation by the state of anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 per megawatt is the idea until we're actually submitting this project for tax purposes. Like I said earlier, the native habitat cover, as well as I want to note that again, this is not a permanent use. This will allow the land to be restored to existing condition and hopefully a better farming condition once the lease is up because of the pollinator habitat and the deep-rooted plant system that is installed underneath these solar panels. Just a conclusion here that this project was reviewed by all the boards within Livingston County and has met all the requirements, and the zoning board recommended this project unanimously at a 5-0 vote. And I ask you, the board here tonight, to see all the findings and facts, and we request that this application be approved and that is consistent with other projects that have previously been approved within Livingston County. And thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. I guess I'll start with the first question there in your conclusion that this meets all of the criteria that the ones prior to it has. I know that there have been issues with neighbors in prior solar permits and approvals, and I know for a fact the majority, if not all of them, have worked with the neighbors in some way, shape, or form to maybe sell the project to them as well, because as a farmer and as a landowner myself, I understand the importance of a owner's right to do what they want with their property. Having said that, we also need to be neighborly, and we need neighbors to be neighborly. I think it is extremely important that if this were to pass tonight, US Solar does all that they can and will to make sure the neighbors that surround this project are maybe not a full approval, but kind of ease some of the burdensome of it. Like you had heard, Trajectory, that they have done their best to bend over backwards for neighbors, and I would like for you guys to do the same, if at all possible. You know, we are a community that we do what we can when we can, and this here would be something that if it were to pass tonight, I would like continuing conversation with the company and these neighbors to make sure that their concerns are heard.
Completely agree. Yeah, we've had discussions with the neighbors, and we definitely want to ensure that we are a good neighbor, especially since this is a long-term lease. We don't want to have any negativeness through this entire process. So thank you.
And before I open it up to questions, Gerald Earing, a member of the Ag and Zoning Committee, on Tuesday had asked Ross about the subscription. It was under our understanding, and maybe we did not hear him quite right or correctly. He said that this would cost, a subscription would cost them money, but what you had told us earlier, there's a savings in it. You just do it a little bit different than other companies do, whereas the electric bill comes from US Solar, correct? They will not come from Commonwealth Edison, or can you help a little bit more on explanation of that?
Yeah, I apologize if there was any confusion there on Tuesday. Yes, so you still receive your utility bill as you do, and the credits are shown on that utility bill from the solar project itself. And then the subscription cost is then billed to the owner or to the subscriber, but there's the locked-in savings rate. So if your utility bill is $1,000 a year and your subscription cost is $800 a year, then that's your 20% locked-in savings rate. It adjusts as your utility usage adjusts.
Okay. Paul?
Thank you. So you had mentioned that you had conversations with the surrounding neighbors. Can you give us the outcomes or the discussions on how they finished with those neighbors?
So the one neighbor to the east, we discussed with the landowner's son, I believe, and Jason, and there was no initial concern other than seeing the site or seeing the sunsets to the west was their main concern that we were aware of from our discussions.
They've expressed no concern to you other than the sunset to the west?
That is what I'm aware of, yes.
Okay.
What? No,
No, ma'am, I'm sorry. We did not amend the agenda in the beginning to allow public comment during this, and I apologize for that. That is on me. I apologize. So the conversation, I guess I need some help here. Maybe Randy, can we allow public now, or do we need to run the meeting as, and again, this is on me. I apologize. We probably, as we have done in the past, allowed public to speak before a vote is taken. I need some help here.
I think it's,
The agenda is set.
ma'am, I'm sorry. We didn't amend our agenda for public comment prior to. I understand.
No, ma'am, we use. Did you come to the ZBA? Did you voice your opinion at the ZBA?
Yes, she did. She wasn't there? Oh, the other two. Oh, okay, yes, you're right. The other two were there.
Jesse, you had your hand raised there. I will need you to introduce yourself and your role as a county employee, please.
Jesse King, I'm the Assistant Administrator of the Zoning Office. The other concern that was noted at the ZBA meeting regarding this project by the landowners to the east that I recall was they had an objection to allowing sheep to graze the property. From what I understand and recall was that it would be Jason's wife that would be the landowner's son's wife who was just speaking. The way I understood it is that she has an allergy of some sorts to the dander that could possibly come off of the sheep. And with the winds coming from west to east could be a problem for them. And they feared that if sheep were allowed to graze, excuse me, if sheep were allowed to graze on the property and the dander from the sheep causing all the issues that may come with it, they feared that they may have to move away from the property.
Thank you, Jesse, for clarifying that.
Jesse, was that stated at the ZBA meeting?
Yes.
In public comment, correct?
Yes, it was stated after their case was presented and it was opened up for public comment.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to also note that the sheep grazing is nowhere near set in stone. It's just been something that the landowner themselves has expressed as an interest and something that we've done on other projects. So this doesn't have to be something that we do at all, and especially if it is a concern to the residents, we will definitely not have that done on this particular project. However, we would still, and the landowner would still like to see the solar be installed, just not as a additional use of having sheep graze there as well.
Gerald?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I got a question here. I don't know if this is right or wrong. The other night we talked about doing the batteries on stuff like this, and they have to have a different permit to do that when they have to come back. Is this something possible that the sheep gets shut down for now and the solar goes through and then they have to come back to redo this for sheep?
I don't know, Chuck, Jesse, we cannot amend the permit here, can we?
I mean, just the fact of being a good neighbor, we can eliminate that right now from our discussion.
At the time of application, that was not specified as being something that they wished to do. So that was sort of something that was brought in as a possibility or suggestion after the fact. As a possibility, it was brought up in the public hearing at ZBA as being a possibility, more or less. It wasn't part of their application. It was just an idea that was brought up after the fact as a kind of a...
Jesse, so are you telling us that the way the application is written, there's nothing in there about sheep, that they would have to come back, if they wanted to put sheep on there, they would have to come back before us and get that approved?
Yes, correct. So one of the conditions we put on all of these solar farm applications is that they come back for a review in 1 year after approval. And so If there's any changes to what was on their application from the date of approval till that 1-year review, or if they request to be reviewed before that, say if they're looking to construct sooner than the 1 year, we may bring them in earlier than that for a review. If there's any site alterations or plan alterations, they would be coming back to the ZBA for their review, and that's where they would propose any additions or alterations to their site, and the ZBA would then either accept those changes or not, and they could be added to the conditions of their special use permit.
Chuck, do you have something to add? I just want to make sure we get you up out of your seat.
Yeah, thank you. I think going back to the sheep issue, I think it's more being a neighborly issue. The state statutes in regards to county zoning is very little restrictive as far as ag uses are concerned. So this is a pasture area, they could be able to put sheep in there as a pasture area. So I think as far as speaking specifically of a livestock issue in that, with the statutes the way they're written, I don't think we can be very restrictive on having livestock in that area.
Let me get that straight, Chuck. You said that it would be hard to do that, or it is?
We probably cannot do that, because the way the statutes are written, if they're using it for agricultural property, they're allowed to use it for agricultural property.
Right, because how long does a special use run? Because basically you're if you approve it with that condition, that runs with the land, and
Right.
you're proscribing an agriculturally zoned property from having livestock.
Yeah.
Special use.
I mean, the special use is 25 to 40 years probably, so.
Or just the solar? Without the chance, it's going into a different category here on our zoning, correct?
No, the zoning stays agriculture. You're
But does that mean-
you're proving a special use being an agricultural district.
But the special use also says they can have sheep?
It's still zoned agricultural.
It's agriculture still,
Okay,
Joe.
I'm getting it now. So if that would happen, that they put sheep in there, they have to contact all the neighbors?
The representative has just stated on record that there will not be sheep on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, Joel.
Got a couple questions. I also spoke to the landowners to the east today, Ms. Dolores Snow, who is here in attendance. She brought up a couple issues that I think I'll share because she had told me that she intended to share these things tonight. First of all, she purchased the property approximately 2 years ago, and for her and her son and her daughter-in-law to live, and told me explicitly that had they known that a solar farm was going to go in next to it, that they would not have purchased the property. How long has U.S. Solar been working on this project on this property? And do you know how long the landowner has been pursuing solar in general on this property?
Yeah, so this was, that exact explanation that you just gave was given at the zoning board meeting. And the landowner, I believe, has been considering solar since early January, February of this year. We have not had a lease contract with them. I want to say it's about May of this year. So all within the last half year.
Okay. My other question, it was explained to me by the same people that live to the east that they were offered significant financial consideration to not oppose this project to the tune of $15,000. Was this brought up at Zoning Board of Appeals, and is this true?
I don't believe this was brought up at the zoning board. And yes, we did offer them a good neighbor agreement in a way, yes.
So they opposed the project so adamantly that they turned it down?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm sorry.
are we allowed to let them speak? I know you,
No,
We cannot.
we cannot. I'm sorry, ma'am, we cannot allow you to speak, please.
I don't know what my fellow board members are going to do, but I will hesitantly make the motion to approve zoning case SU-5-22 USS Man Solar.
Is there a second? Mr. Wilkie,
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to table this.
any other discussion?
There's been a motion on the floor, now up for discussion.
Yep, hold
Joel?
on.
Discussion?
Yes,
In general, unlike the other projects that we've been approving and have gone through tonight, this project is not next to an industrial use such as a landfill or a pipeline tank farm. It is not in an undesirable location, away from homes, next to an interstate highway. And as we have seen, it does not have the support of its neighbors. Instead, it is in a beautiful area with mixed use of agricultural and residential. It has no support of its neighbors, and I believe it does not comply with many aspects nor the spirit of our comprehensive plan, which I discussed wholeheartedly at the Livingston County Planning Commission, which I serve on. For these reasons, I cannot support this project, and I would encourage others to join me. Thank you.
okay, Mark, go ahead.
I want to make a motion to table this. I understand by the rules that a motion to table is always in order.
Are you wanting to table or to postpone? Thank you.
Okay, then I make a motion to postpone the vote.
Till, do you want to set a date for that, Mark? Postpone the vote till when? Next month, next county board meeting?
That'll work for now. I can always make another motion to
November
postpone if we
17th?
don't.
November 17th?
Yes.
Get on the board maybe on the 17th?
Is there a second on that to postpone this vote?
I'll make that a second.
Anchor? Seconds it? So we need a roll call on that, please. If there is no other discussion, hold on one second.
can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, Ryan.
Wasn't there a first motion to approve? Can you start another motion
Yes,
if
we
that
did.
one
You're
hasn't
right.
gone through?
Yes, we did. But we need to have that motion.
No,
There wasn't a motion?
there's a motion, but the motion to postpone is in order.
Right,
I was just curious, that's all.
okay.
Before the roll call, we're in discussion. I asked my fellow board members to vote down this motion to postpone. Let's give this company, let's give these neighbors, let's give them an answer tonight. So I strongly urge you folks to vote the motion to postpone down.
Roll call, please.
Vieti.
Yep.
Bunning.
No.
Manker.
Yes.
Erickman.
No.
Allen.
No.
Fannin.
No.
Schaefer.
No.
Miniga.
No.
Kestner. Welch.
No.
Carly.
No.
Weller.
Nope.
Ritter.
No.
Mays.
No.
Lovell.
No.
Ambrose.
No.
Aaron.
No.
Pittston.
No.
Arbogast.
No.
Wilkie. Runyon.
Yes.
Okay, we have 3 absents and 3 ayes. The motion passed.
Fail.
No.
I guess it failed. The nays have it.
Okay,
Go back to the original motion
now we'll go back to the original motion
with discussion.
with discussion. And remind me who seconded that motion?
Wilkie.
Wilkie, okay. Any discussion on the first motion? Mr. Kestner?
I know that area too, like Joel does, and for me, I can't see putting anything, I can't see putting anything right there like this solar project. That is a mixed-use area, and I personally don't like the idea of a lot of these things popping up here, there, everywhere, without some consistency. Therefore, I will be voting no for approval for this project. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, we'll do a roll call first. Christie, please.
Vietti.
No.
Bunting.
Yes.
Manker.
No.
Erickman.
No.
Allen.
No. No.
Bannon.
No.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Menninga.
Yes.
Kestner. Welch.
No.
Carly.
No.
Weller.
Abstain.
Ritter.
No.
Mays.
No.
Lovell.
No.
Ambrose.
No.
Aaron.
No.
Pittston.
No.
Arbogast.
No.
Wilkie. Runyon.
No.
4 ayes. 16 noes. And 3 absent. And 1 abstain.
Motion fails.
Yes.
I appreciate you guys for allowing me to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Madam Chair, the only information item I have for you tonight is November 5th is going to be our next electronic recycling event to take place at the old Kmart parking lot from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Not only will we take all electronic devices, but we will also take any volunteers that would like to come and help with the event. So November 5th, 9 to 1 at the old Kmart parking lot. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Jason. Now we'll move down to Highway Committee. Mr. Lovell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've got 2 small items tonight. We've got a bridge petition for repair of abutment estimated at $10,000. And then we also have the quarterly report, 3rd quarter for fiscal 2022. And that's the 2 items. If anybody's got any questions, Clay is at the podium. Any questions? A motion to pass them to action items?
Okay, second by Weller. Any discussion? Any questions for Clay? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move to roll call.
Vietti.
Yes.
Bunning.
Yes.
Manker. Barrickman.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Bannon.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Menninga.
Yes.
Kestner. Welch.
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
Weller.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Vidstem,
Yeah.
Arbogast,
Yes.
Wilkie, Runyon.
Yes.
Madam Chair, that pretty much concludes my report for tonight, so
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Now we'll move down to Sheriff Jail and License Committee. Mr. Carley?
Madam Chair, we have one action item. It concerns inmate health services. With the correctional medical group, our jail superintendent Draper has done some extensive research to find out if this health agreement that they were presenting, since it has increased significantly in fee, whether it was in line with other companies out there, and she found out that it actually was. It was actually the lowest of the ones she looked at. So I would like at this time to make a motion that we accept the inmate health service agreement with the correctional medical group.
Second by Bietti. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
Vieti,
Yes.
Bunning,
Yes.
Manker,
Yes.
Berkman,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Bannon,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Miniga,
Yes.
Kestner, Welch,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Weller, Ritter,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Lovell,
Yes.
Ambrose,
Yes.
Herring,
Yes.
Vidstem,
Yes.
Arbogast,
Yes.
Wilkie, Runyon.
Yes.
That concludes my report.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank Lisa for being so diligent in ensuring that those numbers were correct.
Yes, thank you, Lisa.
Yes, she did a great job.
All right, thank you, Jim. Now we'll move down to Public Property Committee. Mr. Vidstem?
I think we just still got a few little snags in our new building, but we have been working through them. Since we are dragging our feet or postponing or still considering our drive-up facility, we're working on trying to get the whole of the old building filled in before winter with the appropriate material so they don't have to dig it back out again. And outside of that, I can't think of anything else. Can you, Lena? That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, John. Now we'll move down to the Rlbcs Committee. Gina Manker will have this report tonight.
In the absence of Mike Kirkton tonight, I will be telling you about what we covered in our committee meeting on October 3rd. We had a great presentation from Molly Evans, and she is the Executive Director of Children's Advocacy Center. They're very grateful for our input, and it was a real great thing. I'm so happy to be learning all of these resources that we have within our county that I've never heard of. We also had an end-of-year report from Livingston Workforce Development Board, and they reported that they had 78 clients served this year with $165,000 spent on those clients. Most of it, the money is spent on training for jobs, and also they're having a little trouble getting an paramedic report. They don't have anybody to teach it. So if you know anybody that can teach that class. Also, I wanted to invite everyone to the Veterans Prayer Breakfast and Benefit Orientation that we are sponsoring along with the Veterans Assistance Commission on Saturday, November 12th, starting at 8 o'clock and ending at 10. All veterans will be free. We're having breakfast provided by a local restaurant. And if you'd like to help out at that breakfast too, we could use some help. It'll be at the Pontiac Armory on the drill floor on Reynolds Street. And all veterans eat, and their immediate families actually, eat free. Everybody else is $8 for civilians. And they're also looking for donations to the Veterans Assistance Commission. We'd like to hold this thing every year. Thank you, that's it. That's all I
Okay.
got.
Thank you, Gina. Now we'll move down to IT. Mr. Fannin?
Madam, I have no report since we did not meet, unless John would like to update us on where we're at with the two-factor authentication.
We're actually still working on it. We're about halfway through the health department. We have one issue with them remoting into their computers. And then we've got most of the sheriff's department done. So we're probably about 80%.
Good. Thank you, John.
Okay. Is that it?
That's all I have, Madam.
All right. Thank you, Marty. Executive committee, my committee, I have no report at this time. Now we're down to public comment. If anybody has any public comment. No public comment? If you can come to the podium if you'd like, please.
We will need your name and address, please, ma'am.
My name is Dolores No, 9719 East 3000 North Road, Manville, Illinois. I just want to thank all of you for all of your input and for what you did for us. We really appreciate it. And I can see where the other company had they had the backing of all the neighbors. And those situations were entirely different than ours, where the two people that were most affected did not support this program. And it was so much so that we turned down sizable amounts of money to not go along with it. That's how much we did not want it. So I appreciate you hearing all of that and denying it for us. We truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, public comment? Also, if you could state your name too, please, and your address.
Hi, my name is Janine Kowalczyk, and I reside at 9719 East 3000 North Road. Still trying to keep it memorized. And first off, I do want to apologize to everyone in here because I get a little bit passionate about things, and so I apologize that I didn't follow the decorum that is required, but I just felt like I really needed to be heard. I opposed to this from the get-go. And I didn't get to be heard. And then the second chance that I had, I didn't get to be heard again because I also suffer from migraines. And I've just begun to start getting...
Can you move towards your microphone,
Sorry.
please? Thank you.
I just begun to get healthy from that and, you know, getting that taken care of. And I just don't need any more negative things against me health-wise, and I'm trying to get better. And so there's so much more to this argument than just the sheep and the sunset, because Jason and I actually are rehabbing the barn that is behind the house, and that loft will be our home. So that property goes back behind the home to the north, and so we're going to have yard out there too. And I don't want to have to sit there and try to figure out how I have to not get something like that in my photos. So I do appreciate your vote, I really do, and I do apologize that I
No worries.
didn't do it right. But God bless everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? You're good? Okay. All right, before we go into executive session, a couple things. All board members will excuse themselves to the committee room for executive session. Anyone else can stay in this room. And we will take a 5-minute break before going into that session. I need a motion to go into.
Motion to go into executive session pursuant to 5 ILCS 122 C1.
Hold on, guys, roll call, we gotta do
We have a
roll call.
here, so hang on. Who seconds that?
I
Weller
did.
seconds it. Need a roll call, please. Weller.
Vieti. Yes. Bunning.
Yes.
Banker. Yes. Berrickman.
Yes.
Allen. Yes. Fannin. Schaefer. Menninga.
Yes.
Kestner. Welch.
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
Weller.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Pittston. Arbogast. Wilkie. Runyon.
Yes.
Did Wilkie say yes? Couldn't.